Hey guys, welcome back to another video from Espresso Outlet. And today we're going to do an overview of the Wendougee software. I've gotten this request and I've really been holding off on making this video because I knew that there were some updates coming. So let's just go over the latest update from Wendougee and we're just going to go kind of deep dive. We do have a lot of videos out there on these specific features already. So if we get to one of those items, I'll just mention to go check out one of the other videos. Also, just like and subscribe this channel as you're learning to use the Wendougee espresso machine. It's going to be really nice to come back and find those quick tutorial videos. Most of them are like a minute or two and it'll get you going really quick and easy. But let's just do a complete overview. Now let's start off with the top left corner, and you can see it has your username, and we have a video on how to set up a username. If you click your icon, you can assign a photo, you can give a bio. I just set up a new account, so I don't have any in there yet. And then if you have multiple machines, they're all going to show up here. We obviously just have the one today, so we're going to click on the one that we have. Now beneath that, you'll see that the device isn't connected. It was a second ago, but when you turn on your machine for the morning and allow it to begin heating up, it does have some of the data stored to begin heating your machine without the tablet. And you don't really have to use the tablet to use the espresso machine. We'll talk about that binding setting here in a minute, but let's say you're turning on your espresso machine in the morning and you just turned on your tablet or phone. You're going to click the connect button. It's going to go out. This is assuming that you've already set up your machine and done all the connection features ahead of time. So now you can see we have our steam temperature, and in the middle it says 0 bars because we're not doing an extraction right now, but if we were, it would tell the bars of pressure right there. And then off to the right, it is our brew temperature. So you can see when your machine's up to temperature, you're not wondering, do I need to wait a few more minutes? So you can see it all right here, real time. It's really kind of elegant and nice. Let's go ahead and look in the middle now. We have four main icons. And the first one, we've kind of done videos on all of these, but the first one is your manual setting. And in this case, it's set at 9 bars for 30 seconds. So it's really nice you can use it for a quick purge. You can click M, let it run for 3 seconds and click M again, and it cleans your group head just lightly between shots. But it's also really nice for dialing in your grinder. So that's a nice setting. The next one is your cleaning setting. And this is user configurable, but at the end of the day, or maybe after a few days, you throw your backflush blind in, you click start cleaning. And what it's going to do is it's going to run the pump for 5 seconds, and then it's going to open the 3-way valve, purge out all that residual water inside the machine. It's going to wait 5 seconds. And it's going to do that 3 times. So it's really nice that you don't have to move a lever up and down. Not like it's really that hard to do a backflush, but it's really nice just to click one button and you can pretty much just walk away. The third icon is this bolt, and it's your settings. And we're going to come back to this. There's quite a bit in here, but this is your overall user settings and some of your historical records. And then the fourth one, it's going to bring us back to the settings, but it's a shortcut to our linked devices. And in this case, we're already linked to a scale. Let's go ahead and turn it off. And you can see we have our Buku scale on right now. We'll go ahead and click that, and it'll ask if you want to connect. It's really easy. For the first time, you just turn on your Buku scale, and it finds it automatically as long as your Bluetooth is all set up. And what this is going to allow you to do is if you were to do a shot and you wanted to stop at a specific weight, you can say, I want this to stop at 34 grams, kind of regardless of what the profile says. It's going to stop at more or less 34 grams. I have noticed if you have it on a profile that runs a little bit slower and a little bit more elegant, I've gotten it within like 0.0 to 0.1 grams, so very accurate. Now, if you're doing like a 9-bar extraction, it kind of might overshoot a little bit. Mine kind of tends to default to about 0.8. You just have like a couple more drops of water. So it's not going to be perfectly on the dot, but I really find that to be quite remarkable. So that's our first linked setting. And then the next two I really can't showcase for you, but if you have something like the Milo 2 grinder, the Milo 2 grinder, it's a really interesting grinder, Probably need to do a video on it. But what's so cool about it is you can have multiple user profiles. And when you click setting A, for example, it's going to set it to maybe your espresso, a light roast espresso. And this is all things that you configure in the grinder. And then you can maybe go to setting B, and that's going to be more of a pour over coarse setting. So it goes back and forth, has a little motor on the inside to change the setting. It's been extremely precise for me. Really enjoyed it. But if you're going to connect your grinder to the espresso machine, this is where you would do it. And what's really nice about that is when we go back, we haven't talked about profiles yet, but let's say I did our first profile, it's going to know to set it on that one setting. And then I'm going to go to the pour over, and it's going to automatically adjust the grinder to a different setting. So a very cool feature, really cool integration. Maybe you have a light roast and a dark roast espresso, and it's really not that much, but it's a couple setting points. You can have that all configured through this link. So we'll do more on that in the future. It looks like a really cool feature. The last one is going to be related to the grinder, and this is more like the grinder feedback. So if you're trying to dial in a new extraction, you can say, I want it to have a target time of 30 seconds, and I want it to have an air time of plus or minus 3 seconds. It's going to say your grinder is set way too coarse. Now you do have to have the linked like Milo 2 grinder to know this information, but it's going to say, maybe go adjust it to this other setting. So these are some functions that I'm really looking forward to playing with in the near future. So let's go back to this home screen. Those are your main functions. Now you do have all your profiles, and when you click on them, you can see that it changes the graph. You do have the 3 different sections. So the top section, it's going to be your pressure. The middle section, it is going to be the weight. The bottom section will be the flow. So depending on how you've created your profile, you can see here it has pressure priority at the top, and then it has a very low flow through that pre-infusion, and then it goes back to pressure. So you can do a little bit of both depending on how you build the profile. It's really easy just to select through them. You will see a couple of icons. So like this one doesn't have any sort of icon, but the second one has this blue icon. The blue icon means this profile was set up to be used with a scale. So in this case, it's going to stop at 34 grams, pretty much on the dot. But this top one, you can see it doesn't have a scale icon, and it says 68 milliliters. And that might seem a little bit off, but what people need to remember, they're so used to seeing the output of the extraction, but you do have puck saturation that you have to take into account. So I've noticed more or less 65 to 68 milliliters does a really nice 1-to-2 ratio, 18 in, 35-ish out, and you may need to play with it depending on which bean you're using that day. But it's really easy to go change that if that's something that you needed to go change. Next, you have the ability to sort by a couple things. So this is all of your profiles, but maybe you just have a couple of favorites and you don't want to see everything. You can remove all these other ones that you don't want to see, for example, and you can leave it on favorites, and you can go find what you're looking for very fast. But maybe there's that old coffee bean that you had a few months ago and you wanted to go find that profile. You can go find it and run that. Maybe move it back to your favorites. And then last, it does have your history. So I did a little bit of playing around. We did a video earlier, and I named this one video, so you can see all these extractions that I've run today. And you'll notice how it does have all of these really sharp corners, but you can see how it goes down at a really nice smooth angle. So when you're creating, we'll show you here in a second, but when you're creating a profile and you see those real sharp edges, they're really in reality not that sharp of changes on the curve itself. Next, maybe you want to put a couple of these all on your favorites. You can mass select here and you can add to favorites, or maybe you don't want a bunch of these. You can mass delete. We're not going to do that, but this is a really nice area just to get everything organized. Some other functionalities, if you do the slide off to the left, you can see this blue icon in the middle is going to be where you go edit the profile. There's actually two different ways of doing this, but it's a quick shortcut to take you to this edit screen. You can also similarly click this edit icon at the bottom. It takes you to the same screen. Also, maybe you're just done with it and you want to delete it, you can click that delete button, and that's a quick way of deleting the profile. If we go back to this one, maybe there's one that we use a lot more often and we want to put it at the top. Let's just change this to our first one. You can click these double bars and it will move to the top. Similarly, you don't have to really delete all your profiles, but maybe you want to hide some of them. You can go hide some of your profiles, and when you click the check mark, those will be gone from the list. So really quick and easy, but it does give you a lot of nice options for curves. And I really only find myself using a handful of curves. The flat 9 bar I find really good for dialing in my espresso grinder, because if you're trying to do it on something like this, it may have a long pre-infusion. Maybe that's not the best one, but some of these have like a really long pre-infusion, and that's going to throw off your timing. So you really want to dial it in on like a flat 9 bar shot. Really nice to have that. So let's go into creating a curve. You can do it two different ways, and I plan to do a full video on this, but I wanted to just give a quick overview. The first is you can click this plus button. And let's just go ahead and give it a name. Let's just call it EO Espresso Outlet Curve. And you can do it two different ways. I'm going to show you the way that uses volume. Let's just go ahead and do 76 milliliters. Now, alternatively, you can click the weight button. And you can say, I want it to be however many grams out. And in this case, it'd probably be more like 35. Let's just go back to the milliliters though. Let's change it to 70, 75, 76, doesn't matter. If you did have your grinder linked, it's not set up, so it's not going to allow me to, but you can say, I want it to be on this setting, and it's going to store that setting. Every time you load this curve, it's going to ask you if you want to change your grinder to that setting. So very cool. But now we need to start building our curve. So to begin doing that, you'll click the add button. And with this machine and any machine, you really have either a flow or a pressure. And you can regulate both based off of your grind size. I mean, if you have a really coarse setting, it's going to go very fast. But you do have to choose one or the other of doing flow or pressure. So let's just do pressure priority. And let's say we're going to do a pre-infusion, say 5 seconds at 1 bar. It's going to run the pump at 1 bar for 5 seconds. And then you have the option to add a delay. So maybe you pre-wet your puck and you want it to wait 5 seconds and just rest, let it bloom a little bit. You can see it starting to build the graph off to the side. Next, we'll go to the next step of our extraction. And let's say we want to run it at 9 bars for 10 seconds. So we have it at 9 bars for 10 seconds after that pre-infusion. Probably don't want to do a delay at this point, so we'll click add. And let's go maybe 20 seconds at 6 bars. And you can see it's built this whole curve off to the side. Now you do have the option of changing this to a flow priority. And maybe you're just wanting to finish off the shot at, I don't know, really this low 1 milliliter per second. You do have the ability to say, like, I want this pre-infusion at the beginning. I want it to hit 9 bars. And then I just want it to go low and slow for the rest of the shot. You can change between pressure and flow priority. Let's just leave it on pressure today and click save. You can click the test button. That's not going to save it. It will pull the shot, and then you can make small tweaks if you wanted to, but you don't really have to. So on this screen, you don't really have to fill all of this out, but it is pretty useful. Maybe you have a really light espresso bean that you like, and then you have a much darker, rich one that you use more for milk drinks. You may just give it a name. These are like my African beans that I really like. They're more fruity. And then you have maybe some more that are like Mexico that are more chocolatey. So you can give those origins up here. You can give an exact origin. You can give it whatever name you would like. And flavor, I mean, you might just say it's like more chocolate based or fruity. Again, you don't even have to fill that out, but it does give you the option. And then roast level, it's probably kind of nice to understand what roast level it's made for, like a medium dark for my Mexican really good milk drinks, maybe a medium, and then I have like my really light African blends. You can select before you save all that information. Next is a pretty good idea to understand what this curve is going to do. So it's going to give you a brew ratio. You can enter the brew ratio. We're just flying through this to not make this video long. Let's say it's an 18 gram dose. You can say 18 grams, and it's a fine grind because it's for espresso. The water temperature, let's say we like 200, it will have a note for 200, and you can have a time of like 30 seconds. It does give you the ability to do a color wheel at the bottom. It doesn't show the wheel, but it just kind of gives you some sliders so that you know what to expect, at least from your previous experience. And then if you do have any specific notes, you can put them in here, as it's really nice to see if you were to share this profile. Have a nice description of what this is for. This is for my light roasted, more African based, Ethiopian, Rwanda, more fruity, natural processed beans. This curve does very well. You can put all this information there before you click save. So once you click save, you'll see that we have our EO curve. And when we click on that, it's going to load that curve. So that's option one for creating a curve. Again, we're going to do a complete video on that, but there is a second option, and it's more of a manual way of doing it. So you can do it based off of weight. You can enter your grinder information again. Let's call this EO2. Let's do the same milliliters. And then again, you have to choose if you want it to be pressure priority or flow priority. So let's just do pressure priority. So let's go to add, and it's going to give you two sliders. And since we're on the pressure priority, the flow is not going to do anything unless we went back. So let's just kind of try to mimic that curve. Now, if we wanted to start at 6 bars, for example, you click up to however many bars before you click the start button. Let's do a short pre-infusion start. And it's going to just do a quick pre-infusion. Let's go up to about 9 bars. And maybe we finish the shot at 6 and click end. And normally you're going to be pulling an actual shot, but I'm just showing this for a video. Next, let's click save. And again, you can go and you can enter all of the information that we did previously on that other screen before we click the save button. Now you'll see we have the EO curve and the EO2. It's not really the same curve, but I was trying to more or less mimic the 9 to 6. And you can see that this one is just really hard data. And when you pull the shot, it's not going to be that sharp of an edge, but it does have the really hard data points of, I want it to run this pre-infusion, and then I want it to specifically stop. Where this is like, I'm pulling that shot like with a paddle. And you can really achieve a very similar extraction, but this, in my opinion, is a little bit easier to use. So let's run through the settings real quick. We do have videos on pretty much all of these settings, but I do want to run through it really fast. We have our cleaning record, so you can see every time that you've back flushed the machine. You do have every extraction. It's similar to our history over here. You can just see the history on all these lines, but if you go back over here, it actually has the entire history, and you can even go back to a different date if you wish. The connection records, it doesn't show anything on this version. The maintenance records, it has an add button. So maybe I don't normally backflush my machines with a whole lot of detergent, but maybe once a quarter, I run some detergent through it. I can say on this date, I backflush my machine, and then you just have that nice data point. Similarly, you do have a fault records. Maybe something inside broke. I needed a new XYZ. You can go and say on this date, I added this new tank or whatever it might be. And then you have that historical data. The second button on our settings screen is for our boiler parameters. I do have an entire video on this, so go check that one out. Real simply, the top is for steam, the middle one is for brew, and then the last one is just an alarm for letting you know that you're out of water. We've already gone through the linkage, but you can access it through this. And then really the last one that we're going to look at is the system settings. This is where you would set up your icon, that little water drop icon. This is where you would set up that information of running for however many seconds and pausing. We have an entire video on that, so make sure to check that out. It's a really useful feature. The next one is a weighting calibration. This is just for a future integration of a scale. For today, it's all done through linkage, but there will be something coming through this eventually. The third one is our key settings or our button settings. This is where you're going to program your M button, and this is where you're going to bind your paddle. If you're not familiar with that, you can go check out. I have a complete video on this as well. And then last is just your general information about the machine. These are made in China, so if you click on Chinese, it does change all of your settings to Chinese. You're probably not going to change it to Chinese, but if for whatever reason your app defaults to that, you'll know how to get to the English version. Next, you can have Celsius or Fahrenheit. For roasting, I use a lot of Celsius, but for my extractions on espresso, just in my head, Fahrenheit makes the most sense. And then you'll see the app version. That is going to be the app on your tablet or your phone. You can click on the v2.2.0. It could be a different number by the time you watch this video, but if you click on that number, it's going to take you to the App Store and offer you an update if there is one. The middle one is your motherboard version. This is the actual control board, and it is a good idea to keep that one up to date. If for whatever reason something is not working quite right, I do recommend to go in here and update the app, as well as make sure that you're on the latest motherboard version so that they are connected to each other perfectly. The third one down is BLE. BLE is Bluetooth, essentially. So this is what Bluetooth board you're on. You can see that we have an update. We're not going to do that today, but there is an update and we can click on that button. And then the last is your serial number. You can find that on the main screen, but if for whatever reason you're looking for it, it is here as well. Last tab, engineering settings. This is more just for machine diagnostics, but it does have all that data in one place. So there is one really neat feature that I want to share before we wrap up this video, and that's the ability to actually share profiles. So let's say we wanted to share this profile, and I don't want to do it today. It does take a little bit of time to update on the back end, and I don't want to submit a bad curve, but we can go ahead and click this arrow icon. We can take a picture of our coffee, whatever it may be, and give it a title for whatever this curve is going to be. And when you click share, it's going to go out and it's going to share it to the community of Wendougee users. So very cool. If you have a friend, you can find your friend and follow them, and you guys can share profiles back and forth. So that's how you would share one, but let's say we're going to go find one. Let's click our user icon and click discovery. And that's going to take us to the overall, all these different settings that people have shared with the community. So you can say, it's some sort of a Slayer shot. It eventually will translate. It's not going to right away, but eventually it will translate. And you can just go look at all these different curves before you choose to download them. And let's go find one that we want to download. Let's do our pour over extraction. So again, today it's going to be in Chinese, but you do have a couple of icons and it's pretty easy to remember. This one at the top is let's say I wanted to follow this person. So we have Mika, and I want to follow the extractions that she publishes. You can click this top button, and when we go to our favorites, if we were to go to that favorites tab, you're going to see all those that maybe your friend has shared with you. But let's say we want to load this. We'll click this bottom button, and what it's going to do is it's going to download to our tablet. Let's go back to the device. We'll come back. And now that profile that we just had is added to our list. So super quick and super easy to go find some settings, maybe something that you've never tried before. So again, you can go to the follow, and like we followed Mika, so everything that they have posted, you're going to see all of their extractions. So it makes it really easy if you have a couple buddies that you're wanting to share some profiles with, or we're eventually going to have a lot of Espresso Outlet profiles to help you get started. You might go find Espresso Outlet and download some of those curves. It does have a search feature. As it is today, some of this is going to be a language barrier thing. Since the majority of these machines are in China, a lot of these may not show up on the search feature, but it's going to be really nice once this community grows. So I think that's pretty much it for the overall on this app. It's a really cool app. It's really easy to use. I know that they're going to be doing a few upgrades in the near future, but for today, this is really what the app is going to look like for quite some time. So I hope this helps you just have a better understanding. I know it's kind of a long video. We're at a half an hour or so, but this, I hope, gives you a little bit more confidence in what all has gone into this product. Wendougee has been around for quite a few years. They have a lot of machines, but this is really one of their first machines, I believe, to run off of like an iOS or an Android OS tablet, where all their other machines have a built-in screen. So adds a ton of capabilities. I'm really excited about the community. It's been fantastic to go work with the manufacturer and say, I want a profile to do this, and I may need to modify it, but they can say, oh, this profile works very well. And I can go in there and I can go modify that profile and save it. So again, I hope this video helps you out. Consider hitting the like and subscribe, but if not, definitely go check out our other videos. I've done a lot of short how-tos. It's going to help you get started. Once you figure out the machine, it's really not that hard to use whatsoever, but we do have those quick how-tos just to get you going as quickly as possible. But I think that's all for today. So thanks for tuning in, and make sure to check back, as I do want to do more content, like I mentioned, on creating a profile, for example. So a lot of really cool stuff coming. But for today, thanks for watching.